Could you say your name and explain your role within NORAD and the NORAD Track Santa program?
Sure, I'm Major Cameron Hillier. I'm with the NORAD Public Affairs team, and I'm essentially a media officer within there. I'm from the Royal Canadian Air Force, currently on a 3-year posting down here in Colorado Springs. And day to day, we watch the skies of both Canada and the U.S. 365, 24/7. However, on December 24th, one extra special mission with regards to the NORAD Track Santa program, whereas we just simply track his flight as he continues around the world on December 24th.
Brilliant. And obviously, I know you've probably been asked this question a number of times, but how has COVID altered the planning process for the NORAD Track Santa program this year?
Well, I mean, the best way to start really is to start with what's the same. So we still have our website, which is www.noradsanta.org. We still have the call center, which people can call in on December 24th at 1-877-HI-NORAD. And we have our social media accounts at NORAD Santa, as well as Amazon, Alexa, OnStar, and a plethora of other means for folks to get updates on what Santa is. The big change for COVID this year is with regards to how we've had to put people into the call center. Typically, there's about 1,500 volunteers each year that support that call center from the local community and certainly from across the country that come in to basically partake in the activities. However, due to COVID restrictions and health protection and the safety precautions, we simply cannot bring in 1,500 people like we have in years past. So the personnel at the call center will be significantly reduced, but folks can still call in and get an update. Whether you get to a live operator for that will be a challenge. However, anyone who doesn't get through to a live operator will receive a recorded message, basically providing folks with the latest update on Santa's location.
Yeah, and how will the volunteer process work this year, considering it usually you get up to 2,000, I believe, or just under that volunteers?
Yeah, so typically we get about 1,500 volunteers. However, and that's been a mix of military personnel at NORAD and U.S. Northern Command, the local Colorado Springs community, and we've even had folks from other states drive in to support the call center as well. The big change, of course, is that we're reducing that span of support from the general public to specifically the military folks and their families if they are willing to support.
And how does NORAD track Santa?
Well, we track Santa in the same way we track everything else for the rest of the year. Our primary mission is aerospace control, aerospace warning, and maritime warning for Canada and the United States. The in common speak language, essentially we watch out for potential threats from the airspace and maritime domains to Canada and the U.S., and then we execute military operations to deal with those threats when they approach our territories. However, on December 24th, those same assets have a much more jolly application as far as tracking Santa's progress throughout the globe. So it all starts with his movements out of the North Pole, and we have a string of radars called the North Warning System along the north of Alaska and through Canada. So our North Warning System picks up his movements initially, and as he transits through radar range and exits radar range, then we transit to our satellites, which are in geosynchronous orbit about 22,000 miles above the Earth. And on those satellites, we have infrared sensors. And the infrared sensors day to day track ballistic missile activity around the globe so that we can track any potential missile launches that are a threat to Canada or the US. However, Rudolph's nose emits a very high heat signature that those infrared sensors are able to track his movements as Santa transits from the eastern hemisphere, proceeding west, chasing twilight as it were, going through until, of course, he approaches the western hemisphere here in North America, where he is first greeted by our CF-18 pilots out of the Royal Canadian Air Force off the coast of Newfoundland. And so Santa's very kind to kind of slow down and allow those fighter escorts to accompany him on his flight. And they escort him through Canadian airspace until they do a handoff with F-16s, F-15s throughout the continental U.S., and then finally with F-22s through Alaska.
Yeah, and obviously it's your 65th anniversary this year, so it wouldn't go without saying, how did NORAD get into Tracking Santa?
Yeah, it's a very valid question. I guess anyone who looks at this from the surface without any background knowledge would ask the question, what in the world is a military organization doing tracking Santa? It all happened by accident back in 1955, so the 65 years ago, with NORAD's predecessor, which was the Continental Air Defense Command. So there was a local ad, basically, from a Sears catalog, to promote their program where they could have children call into Santa to discuss their wish list. So you can imagine a very intrepid program for Sears to embark on. However, one small flaw is that the number they put into the advertisement was not to call Santa at all. It was actually to call into the Continental Air Defense Command's Operations Center. So as you can imagine, in 1955, what is the mindset for an Air Defense Command in America at that time? Watching it for the Soviet threat, obviously, right? So you're concerned about bombers flying over the top with nuclear-armed gravity bombs, and then you get inundated with phone calls for kids looking to talk to Santa. So Colonel Harry Sharp, who was the duty officer at the time, basically put two and two together, and then basically assured the kids calling in, they would track Santa's progress as he transited the globe, and then he instructed his crew to do the exact same. So that was the very beginning of an incident that kind of sparked things on, and then Colonel Sharp continued that program in years continuing, and then in 1958, when NORAD was formed, it was a tradition that we picked up and have carried on now for 65 years.
Brilliant. And how many people log into the website, and what are your statistics like in terms of engagement over recent years, and obviously being one of the most popular Tracking Santa programs across the world?
Yeah, so we've had about 150,000 phone calls last year, basically supported by the 1,500 volunteers. We've got like 1.9 million Facebook followers, another 200,000 from other social media accounts, all basically converging on NORAD, as it were, on December 24th to get the latest updates. And we do our best to kind of provide folks those updates. This year, of course, will be a significant challenge, specifically with the call center. But we don't anticipate the numbers to drop. So we're leveraging our website and our social media accounts to kind of buoy the loss that we have with the call center. But of course, we have the recorded messages there as well.
And in terms of the call centre, in the past you've had quite a few notable celebrities answering phone calls, none other than the President himself in recent years. Is there going to be anything like that this year, or is that not going to happen?
If you've been following the program, no doubt you also are aware that we don't like to announce, what possible VIPs are supporting the program leading up to.
Yep.
Typically, that's a surprise on the night of. We do have a couple of folks lined up this year. You'll just have to call into and hopefully get through to find out.
Well, that's a brilliant teaser there. And I've recently seen that you've added to your contributor list this year. None other than the US Space Command are now helping NORAD Track Santa. How will they offer a new kind of change in terms of Tracking Santa?
Well, it's not so much a change per se, but more of an acknowledgement of a service that they have always provided us. Whether it's Space Command or U.S. Air Force Space Command or some collection therein, NORAD, as a military organization, has a number of assets itself, but we also lean on our partner with other military organizations to provide valuable assets to contribute to our overall mission. And that's done 24/7, right? So I guess the one thing folks would be made more aware of is that when we were referring to those satellites in space around the orbit, is that those are actually space-com assets. And the intelligence and information they provide us helps support our mission day to day. Also, is helping to provide, or basically, we're acknowledging that their assets are being used to support the NORAD TrackingSanta program as well.
And what are all the possible ways on December 24th that children can find Santa's whereabouts?
Well, first and foremost, and perhaps the most visually appealing, is our website, which is www.noradsanta.org. It will have a visual depiction of Santa's route the moment you log into that website. Alternatively, as well, we have the apps, which are available on Apple's App Store or the Google Play Store, which have a similar function to the website. Also, you can call in 1-877-HI-NORAD to get a call center or record a message. Keep calling through. Maybe you'll get a live operator, one of those VIPs I was referring to. Also, Facebook, Twitter at NORAD Santa. Also, we have partnered with Alexa. So if you're an Amazon Alexa user, you can just call into the Alexa skills, say, "Hey, Alexa, where's Santa?" Get the latest update there. Or if you're driving a GM vehicle, the OnStar function, you push the little blue button, ask where Santa is, and you'll get an update.
Brilliant. And now into a bit more specific questions and more in-depth questions about the actual program for the more keener Santa trackers. So recently, obviously your new app has been released, and the countdown is a little bit different this year. In previous years, it was 2 hours before, and now it's moved 2 hours ahead. Do you know why that is?
I think that's basically just a function of working with the partner and just setting up the program so that we have the recorded messages going in sync. Acknowledge your point, and talking to the program director last, they were looking into it, but essentially just to match up with the recorded messaging.
Okay. And is there anything that you can tease in terms of content that people can expect on December 24th?
Well, I mean, as in years past, typically for December 24th, we have starting in the wee morning hours of December 24th, we have some sneak peek of Santa's preparations as he prepares to take off for his Yuletide flight. So if you're one of those folks that likes to get up way early in the morning to see that, be a little voyeur, if you will, of Santa getting up in the morning and getting into the sleigh, then there'll be that opportunity. Also, as we transit through the rest of the day, there are particular highlights where we get a little more in-depth as far as our coverage goes on Santa's progress as he continues throughout the world, highlighting specific monuments around the world. In the past, it's been things like the Great Wall or the Egyptian pyramids, that type of thing, as well as particularly sites of importance for NORAD ourselves, whether it be our one of our more powerful radars, highlighting some of our assets, such as the E-3 airborne early warning aircraft system, among other things. But those are interspersed throughout. I can't give you exact times when they'll be occurring. You just have to be one of those folks who have your eyes peeled throughout the day to get that. Alternatively, of course, you can always go to our Divots or our Divots account page, NORAD TrackingSanta feature page, to get the images that we upload the next day.
Yep. And in terms of, I noticed that you mentioned in the morning the Santa preps. Will they be affected by that shrinkage in the 2 hours, just out of interest?
No, they should not be. Typically, like I said, the dovetails off the tail end of it. The initial morning prep should remain the same.
Okay, awesome. And what will you be doing on the day of Christmas Eve at the Operations Centre, if I'm assuming that you will be there?
Yeah, so it's a pretty long day for all of us at NORAD. I will be sharing my shift with my colleague, Major Jennifer Jones, who's the Media Operations Officer for the program this year. So she'll be doing the early morning shift. So she'll be in at 0300 Mountain Time, and I'll be taking over her at 1 o'clock, 1300, and then going till midnight.
Awesome. And is there anything that you would like to say to the live stream? Is this interview will go out during our 12th annual Tracking Santa live show now? Is there anything you would like to say to the viewers?
Just to say that really appreciate what Team YANTSU do. All your activities are, very enlightening, and as far as and it's also basically it's bringing together as far as like a spirit, not only from what the NORAD Track Center program began as, and Colonel Harry Shoup's original intent, but it's really nice to see that a young generation kind of picking that up and then hoisting it aboard and doing it the way you do. And it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us today, Cameron. It's greatly appreciated, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
You too.